So this is a new thing. This is the collected headlines I get for y'all today. This is the new way I'm doing it, chat. And also, I think if I share this, it takes you to the same one that I'm looking at. Yeah, here we go. This is the Juche Gang news for today. I forgot to change the first page's day of the week, but oh well. Look, I'm one guy, alright? Not a cult, it's a gang, exactly. I'm one guy. But look, I've changed it now so that now you can click right on the source that I have listed here, and that will actually take you to the original article, so you can read the whole article for yourself as well. So here we go. From Anti-War, Trump complains about the media. Trump said in his post, quote, "If Iran surrenders, admits their navy is gone and resting at the bottom of the sea, and their air force is no longer with us, and if their entire military walks out of Tehran, weapons dropped and hands held high, each shouting, 'I surrender,' while wildly waving around the representative white flag, and if their entire remaining leadership signs all necessary documents of surrender and admit their defeat to the great power and force of the magnificent USA, the failing New York Times, the China Street Journal, WSJ, corrupt and now irrelevant CNN, and all other members of the fake news media will headline that Iran had a masterful and brilliant victory over the United States of America. It wasn't even close." The president's complaint comes as the full-scale U.S.-Israeli bombing campaign against Iran could resume at any time, as U.S. launched strikes on southern Iran on Monday, and Israel is escalating its war on Lebanon. There you go. Trump's pretty upset, chat. We got Morandi kind of in response to this. Morandi has appeared on CGTN. Isn't that cool? I can even put the link and do it like that. You can see the videos that we're looking at. I'm gonna work more on this, but I think I'm onto something here. So here we go. We got Professor Morandi on CGTN here now.
Tensions are again on the rise in the Persian Gulf. That's after the United States resumed its attacks on Iran. In this latest attack, the U.S. struck missile launch sites and what they said were Iranian boats laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz.
Get your Morandi emotes out.
Attacks as self-defense. Iran has retaliated. It's brought down a U.S. drone. But what can you tell us about this latest outbreak of violence in the area?
The attack by the Trump regime was unprovoked. The 4 sailors that were murdered were in Iranian territorial waters. That is not a place where anyone would wish to lay mines. So it's unclear why Trump and his armed forces carried out this attack. It's a clear provocation. Of course, the Iranians retaliated, and they also struck a ship off of the coast of Oman and brought down at least 1 drone, some say 3 drones. But this comes at a time when Netanyahu is also expanding his genocidal war in Lebanon, and that is being done to undermine the agreement. So whether this attack in the Persian Gulf region was also a move to undermine the potential agreement or not, that's still unclear. But the Iranians will not sign an agreement if the genocide in southern Lebanon continues, or if the United States continues to attack Iranian armed forces. If that's the case, then the strait will remain.
The picture CGTN is using of Benjamin Netanyahu's
will continue to grow.
Right, this is yet another time when the United States
what they're doing.
Has attacked Iran right in the midst of negotiations. This has happened before. What does this tell you about the U.S. commitment to resolving this conflict? And does it place a huge question mark now over the talks that are taking place to try and get...
Thank you, Decrepit and Thin.
No, without a doubt. And the Iranians have already warned the Americans about this, that they will end the negotiating process, and Iran is in no rush to end this standoff. The Americans, before the 12-day war last year, they were negotiating with Iran, and it later turned out that that was all a facade and that the Americans were secretly conspiring with Netanyahu to launch a war. And this war, too, was carried out and begun as the Iranians were negotiating with the United States. So the Iranians are under no illusion that the United States is a deceitful regime and that it cannot be trusted. And that's why Iran's armed forces are fully prepared for a restart of the war. And if that happens, of course, I think we will have a global economic depression that will become inevitable. But as things stand, if the United States yanks hard on Netanyahu's leash and ends the genocidal strikes in Lebanon, and stops its attacks, unprovoked attacks against Iran, then the global economic crisis can gradually.
Look at that picture.
But it's up to Trump and Netanyahu.
Right, and looking at these attacks in southern Iran, there's ostensibly a ceasefire in place. President Trump says that when these attacks are conducted by the United States, he does not consider it a violation of that ceasefire. I mean, does Iran buy that?
No, of course not. But this is the nature of the U.S. empire. It's the nature of the Zionist regime as well. The Zionist regime is slaughtering Palestinians in Gaza every day. Sniping little girls, bombing little boys, and in Lebanon they're bombing apartment blocks, crushing entire families, and it's all done as there are ceasefires both in Gaza and Lebanon, and it's being supported by the United States. So we have no expectations that the United States or its allies will behave in a sane and normal manner, and that is why Iran has said that it is prepared to re-engage in war, and it is also prepared to continue the stalemate in the Strait of Hormuz. What the United States is doing, though, through pursuing these policies, is that it's delaying an agreement which would allow ships to pass through the Strait of Hormuz and ease the crisis that is emerging across the globe, including in the United States. And at some point,
I'm too lazy to mod Skyrim.
Begin to look very bad for Trump.
Can't be bothered.
Well, let's look at those diplomatic efforts that are underway to try and reach an agreement. An Iranian delegation, which included the foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, as well as the speaker of the Iranian parliament, were in Qatar for those talks. We understand that the speaker has since returned to Tehran. The fact that the Iranian delegation were in Qatar at that level, at such a senior level, is that an indication that the two sides are pretty close to an agreement on what's being called a memorandum of understanding?
Not necessarily, because of what the Netanyahu is now doing in Lebanon. He's expanding the genocidal assaults. And this is a repeat of what we saw after the 39-day war. Back then, we had a ceasefire, and ships were supposed to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, and there was supposed to be a regional ceasefire. And then Netanyahu began carpet bombing Lebanon to wreck that ceasefire. And the ships then, the Iranians said that we will not allow the ships from those 5 countries that participated in the war against Iran to pass through the strait, meaning Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, the Emirates, and Saudi Arabia. So because of Netanyahu, the global economic crisis continues today. And now that the United States is finally coming to its senses and is seeking an agreement, Netanyahu again is expanding his genocidal war to prevent the global economic crisis from easing. So it is unclear what will happen.
Yep, same pattern over and over again.
To Qatar,
an old pattern,
sure that if
old
there is an
strategy.
agreement, the Iranian assets that have been stolen by the Americans, that they are swiftly returned to Iran, because we don't trust the United States. So apparently the meetings in Qatar went well, but also it was the beginning of an initiative to encourage Arab regimes in the Persian Gulf to tilt away from Trump and to behave more reasonably and to end their assistance in attacking Iran. If the relationship, the Iranians want to bring about a change in the relationship between countries in the Persian Gulf, but of course, these countries will have to stop assisting the United States in attacking it.
We don't have the details on what is taking place in these discussions between the Iranians and the United States, but there's speculation that Iran will lift its restrictions on maritime shipping in the Straits of Hormuz under the terms of this MOU, this Memorandum of Understanding that's being discussed right now. Do you know anything about that?
Yes, the United States is supposed to, at the very beginning, release half of Iranian assets that were stolen, and the other half would gradually be released. It will also waive sanctions on Iran's energy sector and end the siege on the Strait of Hormuz. It will also impose a ceasefire across the region, and which is something that Netanyahu is trying to undermine as we speak. And of course, Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz will remain in place. In return, what Iran does is that it announces that it will not pursue a nuclear weapon, which Iran has been saying for decades, so that's nothing important for Iran. And Iran will also allow ships from countries that have been, the 5 countries that have supported the United States in its war against Iran, to pass through the Strait of Hormuz and to normalize the passage through the Strait of Hormuz, which is something that Iran wants too, because we want to have business as usual. So it is potentially a very good deal for Iran, and it shows that the United States has failed in the war.
Good to see you, comrade.
The Zionist lobby in the United States is pushing very hard to undermine the deal, and Netanyahu too, by expanding his genocidal attacks, is also trying to prevent the deal from happening. So the fate of the global economy rests in the hands of Trump and Netanyahu.
There is something else that President Trump repeats. He says he wants the Strait of Hormuz to be reopened, and once it's reopened, he will not have Iran charge any kind of toll or fee for shipping going through that. He says there's no legal precedent for that. We've heard from others in the United States who also point to the fact that it is an international waterway. What is Iran's position on that?
It is not an international waterway. It is not wide enough to be an international waterway. It is Iranian and Omani territory. And Iran will definitely take fees from ships that pass through. And if Trump is upset about that, he shouldn't have started the war. He basically, he and Netanyahu force Iran to change their stance on the Strait of Hormuz. Iran will receive fees, and they will also prevent U.S. naval ships,
Strait of Hormuz
assets, and Israeli.
He's heard it here, folks.
Strait of Hormuz.
Thank you, closed captioning. Very good.
This change is irreversible.
Dr. Mohammad Marandi, as always, thanks for being with us.
There we go, from Marandi. Okay, we also have Haftar's forces arrest convoy. If you want to know what some of the benefit these fucking imperialist fuckers got out of overthrowing Libya, here you go right here. Haftar's forces arrest convoy. Forces belonging to the Libyan military leader Khalifa Haftar had arrested a number of members of a Gaza aid convoy in the city of Sirte. According to a statement published by the Global Saman Convoy Instagram page, last contact with the activists was made at 3:22 p.m. on Tuesday. The detained are civilians from Spain, Poland, the US, Argentina, Uruguay, Portugal, Tunisia, and Italy. Doctors and human rights defenders who volunteered to deliver aid and stand with the Palestinian people, said the statement. They said the convoy had entered the 5+5 security zone, a contested area established under the Libyan ceasefire agreement signed in October 2020 to negotiate safe passage to the Gaza Strip. The group urged citizens of the listed countries to contact their embassies and demand their release. Libya has been largely divided since the NATO-backed overthrow of longtime ruler Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. That's from Middle East Eye. Here's one for you. Stonks. We got Stonks news chat.
I just don't understand investments. I told you that.
Brent oil jumps more than 3%. Brent crude oil prices rose Tuesday as U.S. strikes in southern Iran and President Donald Trump's mixed messages on talks between Tehran and Washington kept traders on edge. Brent crude futures, the international benchmark, gained more than 3% at close to $99.58 a barrel compared to its Monday's settlement. West Texas Intermediate futures, which did not close on Monday due to three-day Memorial Day holiday, fell nearly 3% to settle at $93.89 per barrel compared with Friday. WTI bounced back Tuesday from session lows in the wake of the U.S. military strikes. Brent and WTI are both lower compared to their Friday settlements, after Trump signaled over the weekend an imminent deal with Iran to open the Strait Hormuz. The president and his cabinet will meet at Camp David on Wednesday at the White House, official told CNBC, but a deal has not been announced and tensions are escalating again. Swiss multinational investment bank UBS said Friday the global oil market was showing mounting signs of strain as inventories continue to fall amid continued disruptions via shipments via the Strait of Hormuz. Observed global oil inventories dropped by a combined 246 million barrels in March and April, while cumulative production losses could exceed 1 billion barrels by the end of May. Jesus, the bank said. The sharp inventory drawdowns suggest the market remains strongly undersupplied, UBS said, pointing to falling on land, crude, and refined product inventories even as oil stored in tankers rose due to rerouted U.S. exports to Asia. Not escaping that. The economy is getting real nervous. We're not escaping that recession. It's going to be the big one. Is my prediction. It's gonna be a big one. I can't imagine it not being. I have a report here from Workers' World for you as well on the San Diego shooting. One of the victims was Amun Abdullah, a security guard and father of 8 children. He worked at the center for 10 years. Abdullah is considered a hero for sacrificing his life to protect the children who were in the center during the shooting. Fortunately, no child was injured. Workers' World agrees with the assessment of the Council on American Islamic Relations, CAIR, one of the largest Muslim civil rights and advocacy groups in the U.S. In its statement, CAIR condemned the shooting, saying, "We are deeply disturbed, but not at all surprised to learn that those who attacked the Islamic Center of San Diego were reportedly motivated by anti-Muslim hate." The 2 teenagers may have pulled the triggers that tragically ended the lives of the 3 people. However, this shooting did not happen in a vacuum. It occurred amid a wave of anti-Muslim hate, also called Islamophobia, driven by the U.S. imperialist ruling class, its politicians, and corporate media, who target Islam as a religion and culture anchored mainly in the oppressed nations of the world. There are frequent public calls for an end to anti-Jewish hate, but the same cannot be said for calls to end anti-Arab or anti-Muslim hate. Such sympathy towards Muslim, which would be a welcome antidote to Islamophobia, fails to serve the geopolitical interests of U.S. imperialism and its pitbull ally, the decaying terrorist state of Israel. This is the one we already... Oh, I forgot to change this one. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'll have to remove that before I link it to y'all for the final copy. We also have socialist headlines. That's why I love that woman who was calling out our slimy mayor Todd Gloria to his face, trying to show up like he gives a fuck about Muslims in San Diego when he's out here carrying water for Zionist entity. Don't let these fuckers rest for a second. You know? Preferably. All right, there. Okay, socialist headlines. I'm not a boomer, it was early when I put this together. Lao ranks second in ASEAN forest coverage. A report highlighted Lao continue efforts to preserve its rich natural environment, with forests covering 62% of the country's total land area. The figure places Laos only behind Brunei, which recorded the highest forest coverage in the region at 72.1%. The findings reflect the significant role forests continue to play in Laos' ecological balance. Biodiversity, conservation, and rural livelihoods. Large areas of natural forest remain spread across the country, contributing to climate regulation, watershed protection, and sustainable development. Let's go, Laos. Here's one from Vietnam for you. EVN orders stable power supply as heat intensifies. Vietnam Electricity, EVN, has directed its regional power corporations to roll out a coordinated package of measures to maintain safe, stable supply while bolstering customer service and pushing energy conservation as temperatures soar. Power companies must carry out regular grid inspections and maintenance to keep operations safe and efficient, minimize localized overloads, and reduce the risk of supplying disrupted incidents. Nova Scotia Power could never. One from CGTN for you here about that Shenzhou 23 launch that we watched yesterday. That Shenzhou 23 launch marks a new chapter in China's space ambition. The launch of the Shenzhou 23 crewed spacecraft on May 24th marks a specific phase in the China space station program. Rather than a routine crew rotation, the mission constitutes an operational node, where emphasis shifts measurably from maintaining a permanently inhabited platform to extracting systematic scientific value. The flight combines several incremental but mutually reinforcing developments. A spacecraft optimized for greater down mass capacity, a research program built around more coherent biological questions and space science objectives, and the integration of a dedicated payload specialist from Hong Kong. The inclusion of a payload specialist represents a functional differentiation of roles. Commander Zhu Yangzhu, a veteran flight engineer, and pilot Yang Zhang Jiwan handle spacecraft operations and station maintenance. Alongside them, Li Zhiyang, also known as Li Kaiying in Cantonese, a payload specialist with a doctoral background in information science and computing, is tasked primarily with a scientific agenda. Wow. So instead of taking, Lanny, specialists in space, but do they have Katy Perry with a flower? Yeah, notice they're taking women scientists up instead of women bourgeois artists that help to keep patriarchy safe. Interesting, isn't that? Kiki BB, welcome in. Looking further afield, the University of Hong Kong's Laboratory for Space Research is collaborating on an ILO-C small field optical telescope camera for the Chang'e 7 lunar South Pole mission, which is scheduled for launch in late 2026. which will capture galactic plane imagery from the lunar surface. So, while the US is flying around the moon, China is planning on putting a telescope on the moon. Taken as a whole, Shenzhou 23 mission illustrates a converging trend. The spacecraft has been materially altered to improve scientific logistics. The experiment portfolio shows a stronger focus on questions relevant to future exploration, and the crew includes a role designed to protect research time. The incorporation of a Hong Kong payload specialist, alongside major Hong Kong-led hardware contributions, signals that widened participation mechanisms have moved beyond the tentative steps. If you want to read more, of course, you will be able to do that from my newsletter here. And finally, from DPRK, we have the 26th Congress of Chungrung held. This is, of course, Korean residents in Japan. The 26th Congress of the General Association of Korean Residents in Japan, Chungryeon, was held at the Korean Hall of Culture in Tokyo on May 23rd and 24th. The reporter said that Chungryeon had dynamically conducted the patriotic work under the meticulous guidance and paternal love of the respected Marshal Kim Jong-un during the period under review, and that it would set a new period of struggle till the 80th formation anniversary of the Chungryeon, and wage a dynamic patriotic movement. The reporter called upon the deputies of the 26th Congress to fulfill their heroic, honorable mission and duty in the struggle to achieve the overall development of the movement of Koreans in Japan, with the patriotic strength and compatriots as the only driving force, bearing in mind the firm faith and will that the victory of the Juche cause and the Chungryeon patriotic cause is a science as they are guided by the respected Marshal. Introduced at the Congress were congratulatory messages and videos from institutions, organizations, and officials in the homeland, overseas compatriots, organizations, and individual personages of Japan, and foreign friendship organizations. Delegates of the Korean youth and students in Japan entered the venue of the Congress to congratulate the 26th Congress of Chungryeon. It also elected the first vice chairman, vice chairpersons, and director general of the General Affairs Department, and members of the Central Committee of the Chungryeon, and members of the Central Audit Committee. A letter to the respected Marshal Kim Jong-un was adopted at the Congress. During the Congress, an art performance and a photo exhibition were held to celebrate the 26th Congress of Chungryeon. There was also an exhibition showing the successes made in the Chungryeon's development of national education. Rodong Sinmun. There you go. That's about the General Association of Korean Residents in Japan, Chungryeon. They follow the guidance and the leadership of Kim Jong-un and Kim Il-sung, but they do it from Japan. All right, I got one more actually for you. I forgot I included two from Pyongyang today. Bonus article from DPRK. Teams of the KCU members run towards Pyongyang. The relay teams of the Korean Children's Union, members in all provinces of the DPRK, carrying their letters of loyalty presented to the respected fatherly Marshal Kim Jong-un on the occasion of the 80th KCU birthday, are now running towards the capital city of Pyongyang. At the Sinchon hosts of class education, they cherished the truth of the class struggle, that illusions about the enemy are death, and that they should fight to the enemy to the last. They also went around the Honyang Army People Power Station, a precious output of self-supporting and self-reliant efforts. The teams for North and South Hamgyong Province conducted motivational activities at Jikjol Vegetable Farm in Tangchong County and Kimchek Iron and Steel Complex. Present there were Kim Soo-jil, Chief Secretary of Pyongyang Municipality, and Workers' Party of Korea. Officials concerned, officials of the Youth League, and Korean Children Union members. The participants laid flower baskets at the bouquets before the statue of the Generalissimo Kim Il-sung at the school and paid tribute to him. A letter of loyalty to the respected fatherly marshal was conveyed to the team. Then there was resolution taking speeches. Rodong Sinmun. And there you go. Communism will win. And let's see. And now I think I fixed it too. I think I fixed that page, although the numbers are going to be wrong. But you know what? Leftist quality. I'm only one guy. I'm one dude.
What's happened on this planet?
Yeah, okay, good. That article's out of there now. There, one of the pages are messed up. But here you go, comrades. I am going to share this with you, of course.